Hey everyone, I wanted to go over a few things with you about combining shapes to create new shapes. So for this purpose, we're going to use the Pathfinder tool. And if the Pathfinder tool, the window isn't here, you can just always go to Window, Pathfinder to be sure that it's shown. It can also, sometimes it'll be in these icons that are over to the right. So the Pathfinder tool is pretty useful for just combining multiple shapes into more complex shapes. I'll also show you the Shape Builder tool, which does something similar. For the most part, I'll just use the shape modes that are up here, or I often will use this other second one that's down here below the Pathfinders, which is the Divide tool. There are also all of these other ones here. For some reason, I use these less. There's functions like trim and merge and crop, minus the back. So you can explore those if you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and focus on these 5 just because those tend to be the ones that I find myself using fairly regularly. So I've made a few sets of shapes here just to show you how the different functions work. So for all of these, you need more than one shape because you're combining shapes. So I'll just show you kind of a quick demo. So you'll need to select both shapes. So you can see that I have the selection tool selected, and then I'm just going to draw a box over these to select both of them. You can also, of course, just click on one, hold down Shift, click on the other. Either of those ways is fine to select multiple shapes. So if I click here on the Unite tool, it should just combine those two things into one shape. So now you can see instead of this being 2 circles, it should become, one circle. So we'll do that again with something else just to show you. So let's say I have something like this, sort of a tree. So if I click Unite, now that makes that one thing. So then it can be edited just like all those other shapes can to be one single thing. So in this next set, I'm going to select both of these, and then I'm going to come over here to the bar, and I'll click that, and that's minus the front. So that's exactly what it says. It will subtract whatever the frontmost shape is. So let me go back and show you. So the pink shape is in front of the teal colored one. So if I select it, it will get rid of what's in the front and delete whatever's in the front from that back shape. So again, if you wanted to make something, I don't know, let's say you wanted to make a donut. So if I selected, let me change the color of that so you can see it. So if I selected both of these and I hit minus the front, then now I have a ring instead of a shape. So there's nothing in here. So you can tell, like if I add a stroke to it, you can see that that's now a ring. So that works for any shapes, right? And you can do this with any of the shapes that you might draw with the pen tool, as well as shapes that you might just use from the shapes panel. Move these guys up here to show you. So here's the third set here. So this is intersect. So if I click on that, you'll see what it preserves is any parts of the shape that were overlapping. It preserves that one part of the shape. And then this last one is exclude, not the last one on that shape there. So then it does the opposite of what the one before does. It will just get rid of anything that's overlapping. And then let's do one more. So draw a few shapes here. Change their color just slightly so you can see. Okay, so here's 3 shapes. So if I select all of them and I click here on divide, you'll see that what it's done is it has turned all of these overlapping parts into individual shapes. One of the things to remember about this divide tool is that immediately when you divide it, it also simultaneously groups all those shapes together. So you can see that if I'm moving it around, they're moving as one thing. So if I get the direct selection tool, you can tell that I can click on these separate little shapes and they've all become their own shapes. If you wanted to, you can also immediately, you can grab all of these shapes and you can just go to Object, Ungroup, and then it will make them all separate so that you can work with them individually. So, you know, I like using this to kind of maybe kind of create the illusion of transparency, or where things are overlapping, there are different colors happening, so you can see. But anyway, and sometimes you end up with some pretty interesting shape combinations by being able to use those tools. So those are the four that, the five that I thought you might think were most useful. So I'm going to delete that just to show you. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is the Shape Builder tool. So right over here in the Tools panel, there's the Shape Builders. So I'm just going to make a couple of shapes. I'll use that kind of tree-like shape again. And then let's see, I'm just going to put a third shape there. I'll change all the colors of these so that you can tell the difference between each of the shapes. So with the Shape Builder tool, you have to have your shapes selected. And then if I come over here and get the Shape Builder tool, you can see it starts kind of graying out the areas where I click and drag. So what it did there, I'll show you again, is that it just combined all of the shapes that I dragged the mouse over. So I'm just clicking and dragging, and basically just drawing through the shape. So if I wanted to combine all of these, I could just do like this. Just kind of draw a line to all of them, and then it makes them all into one thing. So I'll show you that again. Makes those into one thing. So the other way that the Shape Builder tool works is that you can exclude things. So I'm going to click on the Shape Builder tool, and then if I hold down the Option key, you can see it has a plus by default, which means it's building shapes, combining them. But if I hold down Option, I get this minus, and what that means is I can get rid of parts. So if I just click on them, you can see I can get rid of different parts and pieces. So that's kind of a fun shortcut to play around with if you're trying to build more complex shapes and popping holes out of certain areas. So we can make that donut again that we made earlier. I'll make that a different color just to show you. So here's my two shapes. So I'm selecting both of them. And then if I get the Shape Builder tool, I can just hold down Option and click, and you can see it pops the middle out. So that does the same thing as this minus the back tool. It's just a different way to get it done. So between the Shape Builder and the shape modes, you can play around with you know, making unique shapes while using some of those preset forms in the beginning, and then using those as a way to make them more complex. So they're kind of fun to play with.